What's up YouTube? Good morning and welcome back to my channel and another video about photography. So on today's video, we're talking about the number one lens you can't live without. Alright guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. I'm looking forward to this video, so let's dive right in. We're talking about the one lens, the number one lens that you cannot live without. What would that be? There's a ton of lenses out there, right? There's many different, hundreds. There's everything from, your 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens all the way up to that 600 millimeter that costs $10,000 to $15,000. Everywhere in between, everything. What's the number one lens you can't live with? I guarantee you can live without that 600 millimeter lens. The thing is, it's as big as a suitcase. In fact, it comes with a suitcase. Never mind. The number one lens that you cannot live without is the 50 millimeter. People call them Nifty 50, 50 millimeter. The number one lens you can't live without, okay? What makes this lens so special? Well, first off, versatility. It's a prime lens. It's not such a focal length that it makes it hard to shoot with in a tight environment. This lens normally is a pretty quick aperture at 1.8. There's also the 1.4 and I think if you're Canon, there's a 1.2 version. I might be incorrect on that one, but I know that there's a 1.4 version for both Nikon and Canon. So it is a super awesome lens. It gives you a really shallow depth of field. It gives you a nice flat image, so it's not warped. With zoom lenses, you kind of have a warping one way, and then with wide angle lenses, as you see on this lens I'm using on this camera, it's kind of warped another way. It's very hard to keep your verticals straight and your horizontal straight. And so there's warping around the edges. Not so with the 50 millimeter. It's pretty close to exactly flat, and you're going to get images the way you see them. It does fairly well in low light situations, which is always helpful. Being that 1.8 aperture, it's pretty wide. Okay, some of them, this one for instance, is the newer version, I think, the newer version of the Nikon 50 millimeter 1.8. And this has a little switch on it for manual or manual/automatic. So you can autofocus this, but then also tweak it by hand while you're doing autofocus. That makes it pretty handy. I'm such a huge fan of the 50 millimeter, so much so in fact, that I actually have 3 of them. So I have got the old, I'm gonna make you film photographers feel old, super old film 50 millimeter. This is the Nikon 50 millimeter 1.4. There is no autofocus for this, and I don't know if you know much about autofocus and the focal plane. When you're dealing at 1.4, especially if you're close to your subject, that focal plane is, I don't know, like 1/4 of an inch. I don't know the exact mathematics on that, all right? But it's really narrow. And so this lens is incredibly hard to get in focus manually at 1.4 whenever you're very close to your subject. So I'll kind of hold this right here and I'll show you that beautiful aperture. Hopefully you can see that. Man, that is cool. So this is the first Nikon lens that I have, and I believe I picked this up on Craigslist or eBay for like 15 bucks. A guy was offloading a bunch of old film lenses, and I thought, that'd be a cool lens to have. It's great for a video. I'll clip in some video footage of this right now. So the second 50 millimeter I have is the 1.8, but this is a little bit older. This was back whenever they made the first autofocus 50 millimeter, and what this is, you may not know, but some of these smaller lenses don't actually have an internal motor like some of the larger lenses, and so on the camera itself, there's a little flathead, almost like a screwdriver tip that comes out whenever you mount your lens on there. You'll see a little screwdriver tip, sort of a flathead deal, and it fits in a little groove there. And so it's an internal camera focusing mechanism that focuses the lens. These tiny lenses, like I said, they don't have that internal focusing motor. And so that's the deal there. This one also has sort of a manual aperture ring on it. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, well, here's the issue with this guy, okay? This was a great lens, I thought, when I bought it. I was shooting a lower end, I think a Nikon D40. So it did not have the camera body focusing mechanism. This doesn't have the internal focusing motor within the lens, so I ran into a problem. No autofocus. Once again, I went from having this non-autofocus lens to having another non-autofocus lens. The problem was easily fixed by a new camera body. When I upgraded to the Nikon D600 series, autofocus works like a charm. Awesome. Great fun. So this is a cool lens, but a few years after its release, Nikon came out with a little bit better lens. And so this one right here is the 50mm 1.8G, whereas this one is the 1.8D. And the 1.8G, it's not as durable feeling. It's a little bit cheaper feeling, but it's slightly bigger. It comes with this little lens hood here to keep some of the sun glare out of it. Cool. On the top, it's actually got a focusing meter, so it tells you the feet and the meters from your subject. And then, like I mentioned before, it's got the manual and then manual/auto focusing switch on the side. So for the most part, I leave that alone unless I feel like I need to do a manual focus. Anyways, that is the #1 lens I feel like you can't live without. There's a lot of other lenses that are out there. The 70-200 2.8, great lens. 85mm 1.4, great lens. There's the 24-70 2.8, fantastic lens. There's a ton of them out there. The 35mm 1.8, which is this lens, just in the 35mm version. Now, a little note here. If you're shooting on a full frame camera, your sensor is full frame, then you want the 50mm 1.8, okay? If you're shooting on a cropped sensor, so the Nikon 3000 series or 5000 series or some of the lower end Canon or Sony cameras, you'll have that crop sensor. You want to go with the 35mm 1.8. The reason being that crop sensor gives you a 1.5 times magnification. If you take that 1.5 or 1.6 times magnification on a 50mm, you're going to be running about 75mm 1.8, okay? But if you run a 35mm, you're going to end up right around 50, maybe 52mm. So that's kind of the way to hack that system. Also, for those of you that have those more entry-level cameras, like the 3 or the 5000 series Nikons or those more entry-level Sonys and Canon cameras, that 35mm lens is substantially less expensive than the 50mm. I want to say at the time of making this video, this lens right here is close to 200 bucks. The 35mm is like $130, give or take, depending on where you buy it. And then obviously fluctuation in the market. So that's my recommendation on the #1 lens that you cannot live without. This will take you to a whole nother ball game when it comes to shooting portraits, when it comes to shooting, just like random family photos. If you go from a kit lens, especially an 18-55, like a 3.5 to 5.6 or whatever that lens is, and you move to this, you're gonna notice a whole world of a difference. I would highly suggest this. So much so, I recommend this so much so, that I'm willing to make a promise to all of my viewers. If we can get to 1,000 subscribers on my channel, when we get there, I will do a free giveaway of the 50mm 1.8 for whatever camera platform you're shooting on, whether it be Canon, Sony, Pentax, or Nikon, or whatever you've got. I'll do a free giveaway, and I will give one lens, brand new in the box, straight from Best Buy or wherever else I have to buy it. I'll do that free giveaway. We have to hit 1,000 subscribers. There's a ways to go. Right now I'm sitting a little over 100. That's cool. I'm super appreciative of those. But if we're going to do this free giveaway, it's got to be at 1,000. As we get closer to that point, I will update, I will remind people, I will put it in other videos that we're going to do that giveaway. So tell your friends, share this video if you would. And also, if you're not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I love bringing this free content and doing these giveaways for you. So hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up. And if you want to be notified of whenever I post videos, hit the little bell marker next to the subscribe button. If you've got any questions, comments, or concerns, or ideas, or suggestions, or you just want to say hi, leave it in the comment below. I'll be sure to comment back to you. I'll talk to you later, and I'll see you on the next video.